As business owners, entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Highly Optimistic, here to bring you the great, wonderful, feel good about the world news. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor, Martin, and alongside I have two extra special co-hosts, Mr. Ryan DeMay and Mr. Ray Ito. Gentlemen, how the hell are y'all tonight?
Well, I got to say, the pep that you got in your step, I think it's somewhere between the naps that you talked about in the pre-show and also that inguinal hernia that you talked about in the pre-show. Something about those two topics got you a little excited here, Matt. I'm happy, but also a little bit, nervous about how this is going to go. You're wildly optimistic. Ray, how are you feeling tonight? Where are you at on the optimism pessimism scale here today?
I was actually feeling good this morning until I just got done talking with somebody that basically has Ted as their landscape care person right now.
Is that a real thing? Like, he really is their landscape care person?
Yes.
Or there's a guy that is masquerading. Is there an imposter? Say it.
There's a Ted imposter.
Mercy.
No, there's a Ted imposter because I had to listen to this nice person tell me, Ray, I don't understand why the fungicide that he's using isn't working on this leaf spot on the trees that he's spraying. And the reason why is because the fungicide dosage goes into a hose end sprayer.
Yeah, man. There's just some things that
you
make
can't
you
see
wanna
me face
smash.
palming if you're listening. Well,
that was an aggressive face palm because people can also see that you're wearing a hat and you face palmed so hard the bill of your hat looked like it went through your hand.
You face palmed so hard, Ryan, but then I'm listening to this and I'm saying, yeah, well, you know what? Of course the fungicide's not going to work because, for one thing, you don't know how much per 100-gallon equivalent is actually being applied to these trees. So I make no guarantees or promises as to whether the application's even going to work. The guy is officially a dumbass.
Well, and I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not sure, and maybe I'm just too naive to it. But I'm not sure that lawn care's got to be in the top 10 biggest industries where you can turn over something highly dangerous to people and just let them go out there and mess it all up. Like, it's just like a free-for-all. I swear to God. Like, I can't think of many other things. Maybe a fireworks store off of I-40 in Tennessee. That might top turf. But
the big silver one that says fireworks with a gigantic billboard and it lights up at nighttime like a SpaceX launch or something. Yes, those are pretty impressive.
Some guy walks out of the door, cigarette hanging on his lip.
Yeah. It's funny. It's one of the few places you can still smoke inside in the state of Tennessee. They actually allow it at the fireworks store. Can't in a restaurant or bar anymore, but you can in the fireworks store.
I'll be
fireworks
interested to see. Yeah, that's really? You can do that? You can't do that, can you?
You can't do that. Come on.
You're full of shit. I'm just making sure.
It sounded good.
Tennessee, man.
Didn't it?
Tennessee.
It was convincing.
I want to know, hey, how are we going to, we had that discussion earlier today, Matt. How are we going to onshore all of our fireworks production? There's a growth business right there. Think of all the stupid money that flies around, around July 4th.
You know what?
Onshoring the firework industry could be a big deal here.
You know what, Ryan? There is actually an Italian family that has been making fireworks in the United States for decades now. I know them as the Grucci brothers. They're famous.
Really? Really?
They make fireworks. But the thing is that those are the fellas that make those big shells that go over the stadium and go boom, and you see all the colors coming out. I mean, they make the big ass, like 4 or 5 inch or 6 inch big balls.
There's
Grucci's,
one.
yeah. There's
another one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look at the domestic firework production industry and see if we can find one of those Google News articles on it and see what the growth looks like. We'll have to pay for that
over the next 7 to 10 years. Maybe there's some investment opportunity here. Maybe that's the direction we expand the green industry is fertilizer and fireworks. What if you could? Together. That alliteration is nice.
Aerial applications, right?
No, but you know what? It would fit because the same thing goes in the fireworks: potassium nitrate.
Yeah.
Well, listen though, I can already see the affiliate links, guys. I can already see the affiliate links, right? Right from spoon juice to boom juice, motherfuckers.
Roll
those headlines.
Let's take a look at our headlines. You were cooking that.
Nothing to fear here. This is just the news.
This is just the news. We are bringing it to you live from spoon juice to boom juice here because, boy, there's no shortage of boom juice in Ukraine right now. The Ukraine war hits. There is a shortage of spoon juice, though, and that's what we're going to talk about. Is the Ukraine war hits farmers as Russia cuts fertilizer supplies, hurting who? Well, in this particular instance, right now, a major freakout is taking place in Brazil. Brazil is searching for new fertilizer suppliers as the war in Ukraine threatens to cut off shipments to one of the world's bread baskets with potential ripple effects on already high global food inflation. So, for those of you that don't remember, prior to the onset of Russia invading Ukraine, we were already in the midst of coming out of or looking for light at the end of the tunnel in one of the strangest fertilizer shortages we've ever encountered. In the midst of also incurring fertilizer shortages, we're also experiencing record levels of inflation. And then how do we compound that with an exponent at the end of the equation? Well, we add war into the conflict, and we add war into the equation, and just take it really to the next level. So we've gone from an exponent to a factorial type of math problem here. The Latin American country Brazil, it has, is the largest producer of coffee, soybeans, and sugar, and the most dependent of the world's agricultural superpowers on imported for fertilizer. Brazil imported 85% of its fertilizer, and about a fifth of those imports came from Russia. So 20% came from Russia, 85% of their fertilizer usage is imported. The Russian Trade Ministry has called for a broad suspension of fertilizer exports. Brazil depends on fertilizer. It's a sacred question for us. President Bolsonaro told reporters earlier this week, defending his decision to maintain cordial relations with Moscow as Russia attacks Ukraine. Mr. Bolsonaro was one of the last world leaders to visit Russian President Vladimir Putin before the invasion of Ukraine began on February 24th, meeting with him at the Kremlin on February 16th. If Brazil's farmers have to pay significantly more for fertilizer or are unable to produce as many crops, the cost of its agricultural products is likely to climb, driving up world food prices. Brazil is also an important supplier of corn and beef. Higher grain prices increase animal feed costs, which are passed on to consumers who have to pay more for meat and other animal products. Before the Ukraine conflict, farmers across the world were already struggling to buy enough fertilizer, some of which more than doubled in price from last year. All of them doubled in price from last year, as a matter of fact. Now we're knocking on triple and doesn't seem to have any kind of relief area in sight. Higher natural gas prices hampered production of ammonia needed for nitrogen fertilizers, while power outages at Chinese fertilizer plants in Hurricane Ida in the U.S. curtailed global production. Wink, wink. War in Ukraine and sanctions on Russia have made the situation worse. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, and I'll kind of come down here to the end. It says that was before food inflation gripped the region. It would be a miracle if the situation doesn't get worse. Higher fertilizer costs also prevent Brazil's farmers from increasing production of grains to make up for shortfalls in Ukraine and Russia. Brazil has the technology to produce. Now, with these embargoes, the price of fertilizers could go up so much that it's not even worth planting to produce. So, interesting take here. And look, gentlemen, if anybody has been paying attention to the commodities market, and I love, someone shared it with me, and I can't remember who it was, but it is Standard Grain on YouTube. You can look them up there. Standard Grain on Twitter as well. Did you send that to me? That guy that's my fucking guy right here. Like, I'm all over it. I comment. I share my. I'm going to share from time to time.
I'm going to show you my fertilizer guy next. I got a fertilizer guy too.
So in this guy's trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. I highly recommend everybody hop over there, subscribe to Standard Grain, watch his videos. They come out at 6:30 in the morning every day during trading days. And it's a lot of real-time inside baseball information as far as what's going on. And so I'll kind of share with you. So Ukraine and as well as Russia are both major wheat producers. And now we don't know if Ukraine is going to be able to plant, and we sure as shit don't know if Ukraine is going to be able to harvest what is already has already been grown. And so because of that, we're talking about a major shortfall, upwards of 1/5 of the market, 20% of the wheat market being absent on the global scale here. So what we have seen with wheat prices is an absolute blast through record highs of what previously were high wheat prices. And it was trading so fast, so upward, that they had to halt trading in an attempt to slow it multiple days in a row. That is unprecedented. We are living history right now. Take note of it. Remember each and every one of those things, because here is the stark thing, and the important thing to remember is that these commodity contracts right now being bought, we are not going to feel the effects of this in real time. Yes, it's trading real high right now, but you've got to remember people are holding inventory that they're using to produce. It's going to be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now where we start realizing that we're paying for the commodity price increases of the Ukrainian conflict, right? So get ready, because any kind of hope or wish, and where we were talking about dominoes being in place, and heaven forbid if they fall, boys, they are fucking falling right now. And I don't think there's anything at this point that's going to stop it. We are along for the ride, and it's going to be a wild-ass ride. And the only thing that would send this into absolute overdrive, which would be layers upon layers of dominoes falling, and this would extend so greatly, so quickly, would be in the event of a war, greater war, right? So more countries becoming involved, NATO becoming involved, and the onset of World War III, which, you know, I don't want to make it sound like that's what I think is going to happen. That's not what I think is going to happen at all. But to say that there still is room for shit to get worse, and that would be like the epitome of things going hell in a handbasket kind of sort of deal. But as far as what we're experiencing right now, you know, over the next 12, 18 months is, buckle up, because we are in for an absolute shit show of a wild ride. Boys, talk to
me. Ray, what do you think? You go first.
Man, I mean, this is going to literally make me want to and need to hoard flour. I mean, seriously. It's going to make me hoard flour, because I don't imagine a world without biscuits and gravy, fettuccine Alfredo, or pizza.
That's not a world I want to live in.
No, you take those three things away from me, and good grief, I I'm gonna stop being nice, Matt. Okay, I'm gonna stop being nice. When those three things are taken away from me, I'm gonna stop being nice.
Ray
No,
beat
heads
the
are
hell
gonna
out of his
roll.
neighbor again because he ran out of wheat. Somebody get that man some biscuits, please.
You know,
Talk to me, DeMay. Be a voice of reason here. Am I overreacting? Am I being oddly calm about the whole thing? Where am I on your crazy hot matrix scale?
extra hot and always crazy. Your name should be Tiffany, and you should be a stripper.
Oh,
it's from.
I wanna make
from-
love in this club, in this club, in this club.
Only thing is that Tiffany was very petite, and she was a
not
brunette.
that. It's from the video. We'll watch the hot crazy Matrix video after. He makes reference to a woman named Tiffany. But anyway, what do I think? It's going to be the ripple effect, right? We're going to see this reverberate. So, like, what's the next thing, right? It is coming up in our crop production cycles, and what if things get worse, right, as we're ramping up through planting season? What if things get worse if we're ramping up through summertime, right? And what if we hit a drought? Like, all these things, all these other uncontrollable and external factors, right?
Yes, which important thing you brought up there is drought in the Midwest right now, which is another major wheat producer. So it's not like, all of a sudden we can just start ramping up acres of production because we're dealing with lingering drought in the area too. So sorry to interrupt, but great.
No, you're fine. You're fine. But you're gonna have people respond. Like, I mean, who knows how this is all going to shake out, right? Like, how many farmers look at nitrogen prices and say, hey, you know what, instead of corn, I'm going to go with wheat because, I can probably get paid more on wheat, maybe, right? Maybe the margin's there, maybe they're not. It just depends on how, you're set up and ready to go in terms of crop production. But even so, I think it's going to be this sort of ripple effect that we see. I mean, if you look at tonight, and we're recording this on Sunday, market futures on British crude oil are up to like $135 a barrel. I mean, absolutely crazy prices right now. So I don't think that this is going to move in any generally good direction. You might see it pop up and slide back and everything like that. The other question too is from a fertilizer standpoint, like on the other sides, fellas, is for nitrogen and others, like, are we going to see a ripple effect because we have Ukraine and Russia not planting as many acres? Is that going to be a thing? So all this being said, my biggest thing is, while Mr. Putin probably could use some stress blend a little bit. I just hope he's not going all the way down the wormhole to get himself dominating his neighbors, because that would be bad.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
DeMay, you zinger. I think neighbor domination is right up there on top of what old lad's trying to achieve. I don't want to harp too much on this because I'm sure everybody is glued to the news reading about it, and there's nothing really of value of a geopolitical stance that I can add to this. And I'll go ahead and bring this up that you've got multiple different schools of thoughts on this, where some people are like, oh well, we can take our conventional ethanol corn acres, convert them over to wheat, and do away with ethanol and fuel production, and that would at least offset some of the. And I don't know if it would be a 1-to-1 replacement as far as what we grow for ethanol to supplement that with wheat, and then you've got two different crops for wheat too. You can have a spring wheat and a fall wheat too, depending on how far north you are, what latitude you're at. So there's a lot of different things out there, and I don't know what the right answer is, and it's still continuing to unfold. And like I said, this is history being written right now. And last week was the first week of ever having to deal with this at this magnitude with this kind of population that we're dealing with in the world right now. So it'll be interesting to check out and keep a close eye on. And again, I highly recommend everybody hop over to Standard Grain and if you're into that kind of thing, getting a peek into the behind the scenes of the commodity market there. Now we'll move on to the next article here, which is we're going to go more traditional turfgrass management here, and this is from the GCSAA. It says the effects of core recycling versus conventional aerification practices. How are plant and soil properties influenced when sand from aerification cores gets returned to a green? And so basically, they talk about the setup that they're doing here is they're working with ultra dwarf Bermuda grass, and in one instance, they are doing a traditional core aeration and then collecting the cores. And remember, these ultra dwarf Bermuda grass greens are grown on USGA spec sand, right? So it has a sand-based growing medium, and then after they core this, they are replacing it with sand, right? With fresh sand is coming back in, and they're filling in the holes and the voids with it. In this particular instance, what they're testing is core aerification, but then they are using on one of their sections a core recycler. And basically what this is this is a screening device that is going to tumble the cores and allow the sand that was previously used to support the growth of the grass to be reintroduced back into the holes that it was removed. And they would discard the organic matter and thatch layer and stuff that was also removed with the core, right? So you are recycling the sand that was originally used to grow this, right? And we'll kind of hop over here to the results. And I'm not exactly sure what this means, and I'm sure DeMay and Ray will be able to provide some more insight into this on each of these, because we see some positive things, we see some things that could be considered negative here, but effectively, so a lot of times when core aerification is being performed, the goal there is to actually reduce organic matter content, right? Because they're trying to inhibit the over accumulation of organic matter. And what we see is, in this particular instance, between a conventional and a core recycler type of program here, we are retaining higher levels of organic matter in the growing medium. Now, as we hop down to root biomass, we see we are also preserving one hell of a root system compared to just your conventional aerification. Then, if we take a look at turfgrass color, we are getting significantly greater color out of using a core recycler than we were with a conventional core aeration. Now, and then we look at NVDI scores, and NDVI looks better too. So, color is improved. Thus, because color has improved, ultimately inputs can be reduced, right? Because a lot of times when we are supplementing with inputs, the whole kit and caboodle there is to improve color and growth characteristics, right? But if we're getting enough nutrient return by recycling the sand here, even though we're starting with a little bit higher organic matter, it may not be above the threshold that could produce a negative impact on these golf greens. So kind of an interesting approach here. DeMay, I know you shared this, so talk to us. I tried to give a little bit of a rundown here, but when you see this, what is going through your head, and do you think that this is one of those cultural practices that we should be looking at in lieu of our traditional core aerification program?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great look at sort of the gold standard against something that's a little bit I wouldn't say new, but really unexplored, right? In terms of quantifying it and try to qualify it as a useful practice, right? So the idea that we can basically grind up what's there, return that back in along with some top dressing versus completely coring everything, removing all those cores and then replacing with fresh clean sand. So, if you look down at, some of the data, the interesting stuff there to pull out and unpack is essentially that the pulverization method, right, actually yielded very similar results all the way around. What was changing, though, Ray, and I thought you might find this interesting, was the pulverization versus the conventional cores. All good. Everything's kind of the same, right? Very negligible differences, except for when you start to add in higher nitrogen rates, right? So it made me think of a couple of things as, I looked at this and thought of it in our context is, number one, that we know that mature lawns, especially whether you're on warm season or cool season, really do need less nitrogen to function, right? Okay, so from that
Yes.
standpoint. But I also wonder too if, some of the things that get pushed in terms of, oh, you got to dethatch the lawn. Oh, you got to or aerate the lawn. Whether they know it or not, I wonder if some of the people that are espousing these views are doing so because they know that they're advertising high nitrogen programs on lawns that don't necessarily need it. Thoughts?
Okay, Ryan, my thought on this is I've experienced this for myself is that on lawns where the nitrogen is not moderated, those are the lawns where the only way to keep them maintainable week after week is you are going to have to reduce your organic matter and your ENR by mechanical and manual means. Otherwise, that son of a gun is going to grow like hell on you. You're going to have a hard time controlling it or managing it.
Yeah,
So,
and uh, obviously this is
so
done
the
on
thing,
golf greens. But go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But then on the golf green, what this means for the golf superintendent is I know the standard or normal practice after an aeration and sand refreshment with new clean sand is they then need to go out and give a slug of 0.25 to 0.5 pounds of available nitrogen right away to get the green to grow back. But if they're recycling the existing sand that also contains the ENR load, then
Hmm.
they might not need to actually come back with the fertilizer application. It's no longer urgent,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, like
It's
I
no
said,
longer urgent because the nutrients are present in that recycled sand material. Because I'd imagine that when you pull the cores, whatever nitrogen and phosphorus, etc., that is leached down into the cores is going to come back up and be refed to the grass
agreed. And
in
I
that
think that
recycled core system.
you're gonna have higher higher potential for that to happen the higher you are in the surface, right? We know that from some of the woods or the work from Michael Woods here as of late, the OM 246 project. If you're interested, check it out. Probably the best stuff
Yeah.
going on
Mhm.
right now in the organic matter space. But no, I just think that it's a here's what I don't want to see people fall into, and this is sort of like the impetus for putting this out there was not so much the the newer treatment or the unexplored treatment versus the gold standard, right? It was more so that even if those things are equaled out, right, in terms of the results, it's still indicative or I guess operative that the end rate, right, is what's sort of driving some of that or the vast majority of it, because that's where they saw sort of the separation in those two plots was dependent on the nitrogen rate. And so I think there is just not getting people caught in this cycle of I got to bomb the shit out of N and then I got to make sure that I dethatch and I do all, I do all these cultural practices where if I were to manage N correctly, I might not have to do that. So that was sort
Because
of the overarching message.
as Ryan,
Mhm.
guess how many times I've aerated the Bowling Green
What's that?
since taking over? Zero. Zero. And the reason
Mm.
why is that OM has not built up to excessive levels. I don't have sponginess. I don't have thatch. And the reason why I don't have thatch is maximum 0.1 pounds of N per month. And I cut the N off when gross potential goes below 50%.
Yep.
That's how you do it right there.
That's exactly how you do that. And again, to highlight one of the things that was said there was Michael Woods and the OM 246. Pretty interesting stuff there. Asian turfgrass. What is the full name
Center.
of his?
Asian Turfgrass
Is it just
Center.
Asian Turfgrass? AsianTurfgrassCenter.com.
Center.
AsiaTurfgrassCenter.com and sign up for his email that he puts out. He also has a Discord channel that you can check out, and he's very responsive. He'll talk to you. Just remember, he's on the other side of the planet, so it might be a little bit of a delay by the time he does get back to you. He is legit in Asia doing this, so definitely want to plug people pioneering that in the industry. Turf replacement bill gains ground. So we talked about this a little while ago. J-Paint?
I hate headlines like that.
It gains ground. Oh, I get it. I didn't get it at first. Now I get it. So when we talked about this, what they were looking to do was raise local funds to replace turfgrass areas with drought-resistant landscaping, right? So basically, you agree to have your grass removed, and they'll give you the money to put in the drought-resistant landscaping. And turns out it is picking up steam here. A turf replacement bill, which passed unanimously this week out of the House Agriculture, Livestock, and Water Committee, would require the State Water Board to develop a statewide program to provide financial incentives for the voluntary replacement of irrigated turf with water-wise, drought-resistant landscaping. Local entities that already have turf replacement programs could apply. The Colorado Water Conservation Board could apply to it for money to help increase the rebate to property owners. In areas where a program doesn't currently exist, the CWCB would have to hire a contractor to administer a program. The drafters of the House bill said it's aimed at efficient water use and would increase communities' resilience to drought and climate change and reduce the scale of agricultural water rights to meet increased demand in cities and protect river flows. Sponsors are asking the program to be funded with $4 million from the general fund. The bill's next stop is the House Appropriations Committee. So you can read through this and take a look at it. But the point here that we wanted to bring forward is that it is gaining steam. And again, in certain instances, this can be a good thing. In other instances, this could be a bad thing. And I want to, without being too conspiratorial here, what I do want to say is that I'll go ahead and highlight at least some bad things, and then I'll end on good things about it, right? In terms of bad things, if the improvement of soils and the accumulation of organic matter in soils, as we all know, as science tells us, will increase rates of carbon sequestration, atmospheric carbon sequestration, and that would be the density and availability of leaf surface area, then we are sacrificing the carbon sink approach towards from turf grasses, and not only that, but also the filtration we get from turf grasses. So that is a major step backwards, because remember, the rate of carbon sequestration actually exceeds the rate of the carbon offsets produced by mowing and fertilizing. So it is a net positive to have a home lawn here. So we are sacrificing that to go in with these other types of drought-resistant plants where we do not have the plant density, we do not have the amount of leaf surface area, therefore we do not have the amount of photosynthesis, therefore we do not have the same rate of carbon sequestration. So that is a negative. Now, in the positive is that how many water programs that homeowners are running on their home lawns are just piss poor, where you set it, it's going to come on once a day or once every other day for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, no matter what. It's a set it and forget it, Ronco style approach of watering. And that is a bad thing. And in that regard, it doesn't bother me one bit if these people yank out their grass and replace it with landscaping, because to be honest, from my perspective, they don't fucking deserve my grass. And I hate to have such a harsh view on it, but take it seriously or give it up kind of sort of deal, right? And if they can, allocate funds to be able to do this without, passing the buck on to everybody else who does manage their lawn responsibly, then go ahead, go about it. Ray, I know you're probably going to have a less spicier take on this because we talked about it when we brought up the article last time. So now that it's made it through here, what have your feelings on it changed at all, or are you still in the same headspace?
I'm pretty much still in the same headspace because, again, at the end of the day, I love turf grass, Matt. You know that, right? I love grass. But But I love grass so much that I only want to see it where people that have it are going to show it love and maintain it appropriately. And if they're not going to do it, then no grass for you. Next.
DeMay, what do you think? Should they adopt this bill to further places? Keep it in drought-stricken areas? Should we start ripping out lawns in here in Knoxville where we get 50 inches of rain a year and there's no shortage of water, considering we have 5 convening lakes and rivers right here in City Square?
I think this is in response to like what you guys were saying, is that people that have not managed the resources that they're given responsibly. I think that's the first thing. I don't know that we would be in quite this situation or have quite the target on our back as we do if people were a little bit more responsible when it came to irrigation scheduling, programming, maintenance, like all those things that really go into
Mm-hmm.
having a finely tuned irrigation system, and especially in a place where you need it. I mean, it's one thing for somebody in Ohio to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to maintain my irrigation system." Well, water is abundant, it's cheap. There's no real, risk of us running out at any point for the most part. But that still doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But those issues are magnified when you're in an area that has so little resources, right, and such precious resources. So, should we do it? Should we have this type of legislation? I think you got to offer people an out, like what Ray said. It's the what are the safe harbor thing, where you can drop your child off if you can't care for it or something like that. Like there should be a thing
Mm-hmm.
like that, because
There should be
otherwise,
a thing where,
what do you do?
yeah, because for me, uh, I literally encourage people only have grass when and where it can be taken care of. Conversely, when somebody tries to do the responsible thing too, they then run up against bureaucracy where the sad situation to me is when somebody is forced to have grass and they're forced to have it in a place where that grass has no earthly business being. It's not practical, it's not maintainable, it's not reasonable. And the government says you have to have grass here. Well, you know what, bureaucrat? Get your ass over here and you show me how to take care of this without creating a new or different kind of problem. You show me how to do it. And oh, by the way, bureaucrat, I'm also going to be grading this grass on appearance. So if it looks like a pile of dog shit, sorry, you fail.
And I don't
Yeah,
know what the
and
market's like. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I will. No, you hang up first. All right, fine. Fuck you. Bye. Um, other thing would be I would here's if I had the ability to go testify in front of the Colorado legislature, I'd tell them allow this credit to go to small businesses, lawn and land care or landscape providers, right? That are going to do this the right way, Ray. That are not going to cut any
Yes.
corners, and that are going to provide maintenance for it ongoing, because that's how we got into this mess in the first place, is we didn't maintain it correctly or didn't scope it correctly when we installed it, or didn't have it designed correctly, and now it's time to turn it over to somebody who can take care of it. So I would love to see a provision in there like that that says, hey, listen, you can get X number of dollars and it's whatever, something ridiculously low, or you can have this go to somebody who makes sure that they can maintain it, right? um that'll do it for you at your house, do it
Absolutely.
for you at your commercial property, something like that, and not put our folks, right, out of business for no good reason. I think this is something, if you're in an area that's like this, right, that's restricted water, or has very very little water resources, it's a good pivot to at least have this in your arsenal of how to install this stuff, how to take care of it properly, because it too, regardless of what anybody will tell you, it too needs maintenance. So something to think
Yes.
about.
Yes, Ryan. Because I got a weed control question on the Discord regarding how to safely control vegetation in a xeriscape rock bed. I got the question. And conversely, I also think, as far as the shed fires that I get to look at when somebody installs artificial turf and corners were cut during the install. Like, how's this for a horrific one, Ryan? I got to see what happens when the zoysia grass that the artificial turf was installed on decides to come back.
Yeah, that's ugly.
Ooh.
Through
That's
the artificial turf. And of course, what I ended up doing is I ended up saying, okay, I'm going to have to do something horrific and spicy to try to kill this zoysia out. And then we're going to have to rake and vacuum all the dead zoysia out of it.
Oh, I figured I pictured Ray rolling up to this house with like a D8 bulldozer.
I'm actually going to remove the top 24 inches of your soil, replace it with sand, and then we'll relay the artificial turf. The last article here plays into this same vein, and I'll just highlight this here, that also what's taking place in Colorado is simultaneously taking place in Salt Lake City. They have 3 bills here. One, a $5 million incentive for those to replace their lawns. A secondary water metering, which will require water suppliers to meter new and existing pressurized secondary water connections and impose penalties for those who fail to comply with metering requirements. And SB 110 requires water use and preservation element to be part of a municipal or county general plan with some exceptions. The bill targets long-term water use and water supply essential for growing communities and increasing drought. So it's not just in Colorado, it's also in Utah with a bit more detail here. Go ahead, Ryan.
The one interesting part of this is that they're willing to do what Colorado is doing, right, in terms of offering incentives to convert. However, they are singling out and not allowing that credit to be used on golf courses, parks, or athletic fields. So, some huge opportunities there that they could take advantage of. I know that there's courses in Phoenix and other places around Arizona that have been paid to convert large areas of turf into, native areas and things like that, desert areas. I wish there was something like that too, because I'm sure that those folks don't want to use any more than they have to, but they're probably stuck where, hey, if we had a little bit of help, maybe we could do this. I'm sure the government's probably saying, hey, you're private businesses. You guys are making money hand over fist, which may or may not be true. Go figure it out. And it's unfortunate they can't partner together and try to make a bigger dent in it a lot more quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I see where it's going to, in that now the government is getting very punitive about it, because do you all understand what a metered water supply is for irrigation?
Yeah.
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 So secondary meter, bypassing your
sewer.
No.
A deduct meter is what we
and
call it here. Oh.
a deduct meter, but then, like, what's done in the city and county of Honolulu is absolutely evil, in that in most cases you're not allowed a secondary or a deduct meter. Therefore, all of your water usage is basically tied to the meter, and therefore you're under tremendous pressure not to use water. Not to use water. I mean, I have people freaking out over every single drip or, runoff they see. I have people freaking out about that kind of stuff. Well, as they should, but then, so it's kind of news to me when a municipality doesn't have a water meter. And now they got to put one in, because it's like, oh hell, that's been my entire life, is water is metered everywhere here in Hawaii. It all goes through a water meter, and you pay wastewater and usage of potable water, and they calculate your wastewater fee based on your water consumption. And you know what the water department's position is on that? We don't give a fuck about irrigation. We're going to charge you for it as if you're using it all down the drain or down the toilet.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's exactly what their intent is of what they're doing here, but it very well could be. Most municipalities are going to have separate systems, and but again, something to keep an eye on. We'll see how far it ends up making it in Utah as well. Gentlemen, this week our show is brought to you again by Lawn Supply Company. If you haven't checked it out, and this is going to be for people that have a bit more advanced approach towards lawn care that are interested in taking a spoon feed approach. So if you're a real mo guy and desire the type of property and maintenance schedule that Ryan Knorr puts forth on his own personal yard, be sure to check out RyanKnorrLawnCare.com, the Lawn Supply Company. You can see various products that were put together here. And this week, we will have a new Green Ore SP. This will be a soluble, chelated iron source, unlike anything on the market right now. This is literally the launch of it will be here. And let me tell you, to make this a reality, there was a lot of things that had to take place. This was designed to go out in agriculture first. And you know what? It got bypassed, and literally it is going to Ryan Knorr first before it even makes it to agriculture. So this week we will be launching some more information on that. So check it out, lawnsupplycompany.com or RyanKnorrLawnCare.com. Gentlemen, let's talk about this week's Burns. Talk to me, DeMay.
I came at the right time.
That you did, and it sounded like it was in simultaneous cohesion with Sheila there, and y'all must have been thinking about what the UK considers using Brexit freedom to allow pesticides banned in the EU on food, right? Was that the topic of conversation?
Actually, I can remember my eighth grade health teacher, Mr. Miller, saying, think of just that for specific, current events topic if you want to have a simultaneous orgasm. He was right. Hey, you set me up like that, I'm going to knock it down.
What was going through my head was like, hey, when I get off the show, I'm going to talk to my wife and I'm going to bring up the UK considers using Brexit freedom for allowing pesticides banned in EU on food and just gauge her reaction, right? Is my wife going to be like, oh, honey, that is so interesting. Please keep talking to me about that. Or is she just literally going to snore in my face and be like, are you talking? Shut up.
Shut up.
I would imagine a laugh there. The chemicals are banned from domestic production, but can still be imported on food. Again, this is a follow-up to an article that we talked about previously where the EU and England were considering no longer importing food from Africa because they had been treated with pesticides that were no longer allowed in the UK and the EU. But it turns out they said, well, maybe that was a bad idea. And you know what? Yeah, we won't let it happen here. But as long as they use it over there and it keeps our food supply secure, especially in the midst of, old Vlad getting bomb happy on the Ukraine, we'll just sweep this under the rug. Brussels announced it was banning 10 pesticides on imported fruit and vegetables in February last year, and the UK was at the time widely expected to follow suit. But over a year later, the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, says no decision has been made yet on whether Britain will follow the EU or continue to permit the chemicals on food. All the pesticides have not been allowed for use by domestic farmers in either the UK or EU for some years, but were still allowed for imports from outside the bloc subject to maximum residue levels checked by border staff, which makes perfect sense. You don't want to bring in food that has detectable parts per million levels that are going to be acutely toxic to whoever consumes the fruit or vegetable in question. But last year, Brussels Regulation 2021-155 cut the maximum residue levels for all the chemicals to the lowest possible level allowed under EU law, effectively banning their use on food destined for the continent. The change was announced by the European Commission in February 2021 and took effect in September of last year, but the UK had not decided whether to follow suit or not. The 8 chemicals that are still permitted on imports to the UK, but not the EU, were banned for a variety of reasons. Chlorothalonil is considered potentially carcinogenic and is judged to be a possible groundwater contaminant. Propiconazole, chlorpropam, and I believe there was a few others here that were pretty popular. So, however, the EU has already tightened the rules, so why hasn't the UK followed suit? Any suggestion that prospective trade deals with countries that commonly use these pesticides may have influenced delays to the reassessment would be deeply concerning. We mustn't trade away health and environment safeguards for the sake of a few pounds or use the UK's newfound regulatory freedom to trash standards that protect people and the planet rather than raise them. An investigation by Greenpeace Unearthed Unit published on Friday found that Britain companies had shipped more than 10,000 tons of banned pesticides overseas in 2020, including propaganazole. Greenpeace UK Policy Director Dr. Doug Parr described the practice of exporting chemicals banned in the UK to be used overseas on food to be imported back to Britain as a toxic boomerang. And then ministers should not allow the environmental standards fall behind those enforced across the channel. Britain should be leading out in front by banning this toxic trade and promoting a healthier food system for people and nature. Okay. So again, in the midst of everything that's going on right now, I totally get why they are giving this a second guess and a second look, because real shit is popping off. And that's to put it lightly. There's nothing about what we're experiencing right now that is normal or predictable, or who knows what the hell's going to happen tomorrow. And so you do have to consider that, okay, well, as long as it's within levels that are not going to cause acute toxicity, and even though it's something we wouldn't allow in domestic production, as long as we're keeping people fed and from starving and from going absolutely apeshit in the streets and killing people and eating the hands and fingers of their neighbors, then maybe we can look away from it for a little while until we can figure out some sort of alternative. Because if you look at some of the products that are in the crosshairs here, chlorothalonil, incredibly important when it comes to disease management and especially disease resistance management. Propiconazole, also a very important tool in disease management. So not really easy alternatives to turn to and say, well, if we're going to take away X, we can replace it with Y, because X is about as good as anything Y would ever have to offer. Ray, talk to me here. Are you shocked to see this at all, given the current climate that we're in right now?
No, I am not shocked at all. And I told you on previous shows, up until Great Britain joined the EU, Great Britain had all the cool stuff. They were the type to, hey, you know what? Let's get this done. I mean, the EU came in and basically, for lack of a better description, pussified the UK, because now it's all about health and safety overall. And you know what? People aren't going to get cancer or whatever, but they might starve first, Matt. They might starve first because,
Yeah.
for example, chlorothalonil is a very key fungicide for wheat production even.
Yes.
Did you know that? Chlorothalonil is ultra important for protecting wheat and potatoes from diseases. And you knock off or cut off chlorothalonil, oh boy. I mean, and propiconazole, yeah, that's kind of important too. And then I recognize some of the insecticides as basically you take those away, all you have left are the neonicotinoids and the pyrethroids, which the EU is going after the neonicotinoids and the pyrethroids too. So what have you got left?
What have you got left? It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense to put forth some alternatives or some course of actions that people can come up with and execute. If you're a farmer in this area and you're watching all of this erode, you certainly have to be thinking, what the hell am I going to have left? Do I have crop insurance that pays out every year on lost crop? Or am I stricken by I get 3 times in 10 years and, pray for the rest of the time? Who knows?
No, because let me tell you what actually happens is that when these poor farmers suffer crop losses, what they do is they literally go drink that liter of dimethoate that they now can't
Lord
use
have
because
mercy.
You know what? It's over for them. Okay, it's over. I mean, that's literally what happens when you have a crop failure in one of these, impoverished countries. And I'm not exaggerating. That's the truth.
DeMay, UK is maybe not so keen on adopting the EU policy there. What's your take on it?
So it's interesting if you read into this a little bit more and look at like where some of the thought is coming from, right? So the other side of this coin is the imports, right? So it's not just Africa, but they get a lot of their produce from Brazil, and so there's heavy pressure right now on from Brazil or from British farmers rather, saying that listen, if you don't let us play by the same rules as Brazil, they're going to come in here and walk all over us with imports that we cannot compete with on a price basis. Like, absolutely will not be able to compete with. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to put us out of business, or are you going to let us play by the same rules that they do? And so far, I mean, there's a lot of talk, right? Basically saying, well, like some of this stuff is
Brazil's screwed by Russia right now, and
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that's part of the reason that like you start connecting the dots on some of this stuff, and man, like it's heavy, man. Like it there's no end, right, to the handkerchief that's coming out of the clown's mouth, right? Like it's just going and going and going, and you just so I think the funny part here though is that I wonder, I wonder how much of the world looked at something like Sri Lanka and was like, "Ooh, yeah, we better not do that." And I'm not saying pesticides, fertilizers, all a little bit different here, and some of what happened over there. But like you guys said, like what's left, and you still have production goals you got to meet. Whether that's
we've got copper sulfate in the queue. We're going to copper sulfate the hell out of everything, and it's going to save us all because that is a non-toxic mined mineral with organic exemption, and it'll save the world, DeMay, and probably poison you at the same time.
Can we get a refrigerator ship and take all the organics over there?
Yes.
Yeah, let's pack up a refrigerated barge and put all the organics and whatever else is there. But then here's the reality: is that when you're growing crops in a tropical country, your insect and your disease pressure is amazing. Let me tell you, your insect and disease pressure is amazing. And that is why, for example, anybody that imagines, oh, I am going to produce fruits and vegetables, for example, on an economic scale, even here in Hawaii, pal, I got a reality check for you. Okay? I got a reality check because insect and disease pressure in tropical countries is amazing. All of your organic, politically correct stuff is not going to fly. It doesn't happen.
No, it's not. And I guarantee you more people are likely to get hurt handling copper sulfate than they are a majority of the pesticides that were listed there for a multitude of reasons. Speaking of handling pesticides in ways that probably shouldn't be done, let's talk about Pestie, delivering the best of pro and DIY pest control. A Utah startup is aiming to bring together the best of both worlds. We started Pestie because there aren't a lot of great options. Traditional companies have long contracts and high prices, and the store-bought products just don't last. We knew there was a better way. So they take a pro-grade solution and send it right to your door. Jepson adds, sales commissions can be up to 50% of the contract of a professional exterminator. They only spray a few dollars worth of product on your house. We started Pestie to help consumers be better informed and save money by cutting out the salespeople and the commissions. All right, and I'm not going to continue reading this because it is highly, highly insulting to not take into consideration that a lot of pest control operators, the overwhelming majority of pest control operators, have to go to schooling, continuing education classes, maintain licenses, bonds, insurance. That goes into the cost of operating a business, including profit. And when you're talking about an application that costs $50, what is an acceptable level of profit on a $50 visit? Is $25, paying someone $25 in profit, an insane amount of money for them to share their expertise, years of schooling, years of continuing education, and making informed decisions, as Robert Palmer and the We Work It team say, making data-driven decisions while out on a homeowner's property to ensure the safety of not just the applicator, but also the people that live in the home, because there are lots of exterminators that do that. And this is incredibly fucking insulting. I just can't help but want to shit on each and every one of these guys in this picture right here for insinuating that pest control is a giant scumbag operation.
I would like, wait a second. Now, first, I've got 2 exhibits of evidence I'd like to share with the group here. Ray might get more triggered than that. This could be a world record of Ray getting triggered back to back. I don't think we've ever seen it. All right, J Pink, go ahead and throw up that photo I sent over of these are the products that contain. Oh no, not that one, not that one. That's a tease for later.
Boy, I tell you what, I read that while I was talking a minute ago, and I ran out of. I forgot Ray's name because I read that and I started wormholing.
Just wait a second. All right, so here's what you get. You get 4 apps of this stuff. It's $29.99 a box. So 4 apps of this for the year. So that's $116, whatever that is, right? So here's what you get in it, right? So initially, right, from a perimeter pest control, how do you feel about these products going out with a homeowner spraying it? And then I'm going to go ahead and grab you something really quickly here as exhibit number 2. But let's just talk about products here for a second.
Goodness gracious me, because these are the products where, my God, the EPA normally requires these products to only be confined to the actual structure, or if not the actual structure, you need separate licensing to be able to apply it in landscape areas, and they need to be applied in such a way that runoff into waterways is absolutely not possible. So, for example, you cannot apply any of this to like a concrete surface that drains into a waterway or a drain, for example. You can't do that. Other thing that you can't do is tempered and demand dual contain imidacloprid and thiamethoxam respectively, and so therefore when you're applying any of these, you must not allow these applications to contact anywhere where bees or other pollinators can contact inadvertently after application, because otherwise you're going to kill all the freaking bees.
Remember the whole neonicotinoid argument?
Yeah.
It's double up.
J Pink, go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage here real quick, if we can, please.
Yeah, let's give people thiamethoxam and imidacloprid.
Look at this guy.
Oh, great. They have a video.
That's a nice little Henley he's got there. Look at that. Oh, nice little shirt. I could see Matt Martin wearing that. V-neck.
I could. I think I have that in a V-neck.
Is he talking?
Tease shipment comes with everything you need to apply to your house. An electronic sprayer, application mixing bag, pesticide concentrate, a pair of nitrile gloves, and step-by-step instructions. Before you start applying, check with your local weather. Don't apply if it's windy or if rain is expected in the next 24 hours. A few safety tips.
Smokes.
As with any pesticide, avoid contact with eyes, skin, clothing, and always wash your hands after you apply pest control. Also, allow treated areas to dry before allowing kids and pets to come in contact. Let's get started. First, put on the included gloves and fill the application bag about halfway through with water. Next, carefully pour the pesticide concentrate into the bag. Fill the bag up, the rest of the way with water. Insert the tube assembly and screw on the cap finger tight. Shake bag thoroughly to make sure that pesticide mixes with water. All right.
Show pouring the pesticide in that bag nozzle, please. They don't do it. They only show the water.
Wait. Play it.
Halfway full with water.
Play it slow.
Next,
can we
put
slow
on
it
the
down? Right
included
there.
gloves and
Right
fill
there.
the application
Oh, they just zoom right over that, don't they?
about application bag about halfway.
This is him on This is after he took the painkillers from his hernia surgery.
Fentanyl was a bad choice. Look at this. Look at this.
Pesticide
Well, how do you dispense that little bottle into that spout without spilling the whole
something,
freaking thing all over the place?
And then
How do
you
you do
have
it,
to
Matt?
thread the needle. You've got to syringe the bag with a hose attachment that I'm sure they don't apply. And what happens if you squeeze that trigger too hard
All right.
and it just
Let's
fucking
see.
blasts everywhere?
All right, here we go. Roll it up. Give me normal speed. Give me, there we go. No more downers to this guy.
Shake bag thoroughly to make sure that pesticide mixes with water.
It's a good shake.
All right,
Good shake.
let's start applying. Your sprayer's nozzle is adjustable, so set the nozzle so that the spray is in a wide, even pattern. We're gonna start spraying all the way around your foundation, about 2 feet up and 2 feet out on the ground. Make sure you apply in a consistent band around the perimeter of your house.
In his
As
tennis
you go,
shoes.
identify
In
and
his
spray
tennis
points of entry
shoes.
into your house, like vents, pipes, cracks, and anywhere else pests can get into your house. When you come to a window or door, make sure you do a small band around the outside
Yeah,
of the
spray
frame
it at face
to make
level
sure no
there.
pests can get inside. If you
Stick
have
your
extra
fucking
pest
face
control,
in it,
spray
cowboy.
around the outside deck, front porch,
And you know
anywhere that you might be
the
Wait,
worried
what's
about
that drip? What
in
is
front
that
of the-
drip? Go back.
It's
Go
been
back.
dripping since he put water in it. It like
Okay.
and shook it.
And you know
around
that
the outside
and you know
deck.
that area
Oh, yeah.
by
There's
the
a drip.
garage
There's a
door?
drip.
Oh, the handle leaks.
Yes, that's leaking.
Yeah. And the area
We need a GIF of that. Can we
Next
get
to
a
the-
GIF of that, please?
next to the
Somebody help
garage
us
door
out.
mat, that's an example of a prohibited area where you can't spray because when it rains in front of the garage door, all
Yeah.
of that will then run off into the waterways.
Mm.
Shit. I mean,
Look at the overhead spraying
Holy
of the
moly, you might be-
lantern there.
yeah.
Did he? Was that
Oh,
on his
Lord.
license exam? Did he just fuck that part up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, listen,
he did.
you only had to get 35 of the 50 questions right, Matt. And you know what?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
C's get degrees, baby, all day long. All day long. This
Look at
is
this.
If there are any areas inside your
embarrassing.
home where you've seen bugs, use the pesticide mixture as a spot treatment in the affected areas. This
Wait,
can
wait,
include
wait.
your kitchen, basement, utility room, or anywhere else you've seen bugs. Make sure you use the entire bag during application. The mixture can't be stored overnight. To dispose of the Pestie application equipment, recycle the box and instructions, throw away the pesticide container and bag, and properly dispose of the electronic sprayer. For full safety
Time
and
out.
application information,
Help me out here, guys. Am I an idiot? Would you not have to
Mhm.
triple rinse and puncture that container?
You do.
Yes.
You do. You have to triple rinse and
Maybe it's
make
in the
it not-
instructions.
Let me ask, when you triple rinse the container, do you pour it down the fucking storm drain too?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is then my next question
Yeah.
is rinsate. What do we do with the rinsate? Do we
yeah. What do we?
dump that in the bag and then apply that more? Where do we apply it? Like, I'm just saying, this is I understand the premise of this, of like, hey, we're going to disrupt the market. We're going to like, but you don't take something that is regulated. And you know what? Here's the thing, is that the Pestie guys probably will never watch this video, right? But if they did, I would say that, listen, you're going to feel like, oh, here's these lawn care operator pest control guys that are just shitting all over us, and these are the exact type of people that we're trying to go after, this, that, and the other thing. No. We are responsible applicators. We are licensed applicators. We are insured applicators that have experience in dealing with these particular products, right, in a safe and consistent manner, right? When you put these in the hands of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, not only could they do something illegal, they could very well do something that hurts themselves or other people. And that is why we get pissed off. So I understand that you can save, I think on their website, they talk about, you can save $100 a year, $200 a year, whatever the number is, right? Is it really worth it, right? Is that the place in your life that you want to go out and save a couple $100, Ray? Is that the place? Cut the fucking
No,
Starbucks
not
out.
really.
Don't supersize that goddamn value meal at McDonald's. Do something better to save that money and let a qualified professional handle the shit that they should be handling in most states because the state says so. That's all I'm saying. That's my only gripe.
Right, because
sorry.
You know what my biggest problem is with this, Ryan, is that all of those products that they are advertising that they say they're going to dispense to the consumer. All those products have a statement on the label for sale to, use by, and storage by certified personnel only. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the statement on all of those product labels. And in other words, you as a consumer should not have a bottle of Tempered or Demand Duo. You shouldn't, because right there on the front of the label, for sale to, use, and storage by certified personnel only.
Do you know where it is safe to use?
I asked J Pink to bring this up because I want to show that this is
the kind of person that would use Pestie.
Exactly right. Like and again, no slight to this guy. I understand, and I fault social media for this, right? In general, to even TikTok. Get into their head that tenacity could have this sort of efficacy, and
can you read it for our radio listeners?
Time to just look at the label. I mean, the most basic premise here that you could look at is you can look at a tenacity label and see if insecticide or a mole is a mammal. A mammaliacide is listed. A rodenticide is listed anywhere on that, and it is not. You do not see that, and it's the fault of social media that attempts to shortcut this shit and devalue it and oversimplify it to the point where. And they talk about, it cures this, it cures that, it does that, it'll solve it. It's the best thing on the market. And that's how people get this shit in their head. This is exactly what we're running into here. Oh, man, just sign up with Pestie, and they say it's good. Look, if you look at the Pestie website, it's got some pretty redhead lady wearing no gloves, no nothing, carting around her Pestie bag and her sprayer. That just makes it look like, it's just a good old thing that I get to go out and do a little squirt, and I feel all right, without any sort of knowledge as to what's actually going on here. And again, these are the types of products that are on the chopping block for professional applicators, like trying to take this away from us, trying to take it away from ag. However, we can put it in the hands of people who have no idea what the fucking neonicotinoid is and let them go nilly-willy with it. We don't have to teach about triple rinsing. We don't have to teach about reading labels. You just take your container, dump it into your magic Mylar bag, just haphazardly fill it up however you got to. How many people are going to fill that up in their kitchen sink because they don't have a fucking nozzle attachment on there? That's the kind of shit you're going to see. And they're going to say, well, it's safe to spray inside, therefore it's safe to fill it up in my kitchen sink. And then how many kids are going to think it's a bottle of Method soap and then use it to wash their hands or whatever the case may be, And it's the oversimplification, the devaluation of the industry as a whole, and social media. I sound like a boomer here. Is fucking steamrolling this into existence, and it's a problem. It's an absolute problem.
I'm going to go ahead and read that last thing real quick. Let me read this for everybody here. Just so everybody is on audio is aware of what Matt was going off with after this, right? But we talked about Pestie, and then a Facebook post was shared in our mailbag with us that says, in a lawn group, it says, how do you get rid of moles in your yard? I've seen from using tenacity to trap. So this gentleman has capitalized tenacity as he's referring to the herbicide tenacity to control moles.
Oh, Jesus. I mean,
asking other folks like what you should do, and that's not okay. That's just
that is not okay, because you know what? Our last burn and return was specifically related to how the state of Michigan had to clamp down on that one product because it was misused. Right?
Yeah.
Michigan had to clamp down on that golden Malrin fly bait because people were using it, and bald eagles were dropping out of the sky. And by the way, I know what mesamil is. You know how I know mesamil?
Please.
It's something called Lanate LV, and it comes in a little 1-gallon plastic jug. Vegetable and fruit farmers use it quite a bit, but that shit will kill you. Okay?
No, Ray, it's listen, you can use an HPPD inhibitor. You can use whatever you want because it comes in a 1 ounce container, and all you got to do is mix it in your Pestie bag and make your application and follow my how-to video on how to get it done. And by the way, if you use my link in the description below, you can save 20% on your next Pestie order. I'm going to let this go because I'm getting madder and madder. And in fact, I don't even want to talk about anything else for the rest of the show. Fuck the returns. Fuck the mailbag. But real quick, I wanted to bring this up because in an effort for me to remain transparent, I have talked positively about this product in the past. And however, we have some negative press about it. And so I want to be transparent about what may have been an endorsement in the past I would like to take back. Study shows struvite is a good phosphorus source for crops. Now, the headline here is that struvite is good. However, as we get into the results here, struvite, it turns out, is okay. The results showed that struvite increased grain yield of spring wheat, but not flax. The alfalfa grass forage responded very well to the fertilizer. The researchers also noted that the benefit to the alfalfa grass increased in the second and third years of the study. Thus, struvite applied in 2017 provided an even greater benefit in 2018 and 2019 than it did in 2017, the year it was applied. Although they don't know for certain why the crops responded differently, they have some ideas. It may be they get nutrients from the soil in different ways. Flax, for example, gets help from fungi in the soil to get phosphorus. This may be why it didn't respond well to struvite. Crops like alfalfa produce acids to help dissolve phosphorus in the soil. That may have been why it responded well to the fertilizer. Scientists want to perform more research to learn about the differences between crops and the reasons for these differences. So, again, this is also known as crystal green, and I've talked several times about crystal green and improvements in phosphorus availability. However, we see here that struvite is an insoluble phosphorus source, and in that vein, because it is an insoluble phosphorus source, you're relying on root exudates in order to make these products available. And in certain types of crops, root exudates are done so more through, instead of acid root exudates, you may have synergisms between fungal counts within the soil and the root system, and that's what allows for uptake. You know, you talk about like mycorrhizal complexes and stuff that are naturally occurring in the soil. I'm not saying you need to go apply mycorrhizae. Under no circumstance should anybody really have to apply mycorrhizae to any soil, and especially if you expect to get any kind of positive benefit out of it. You might get a benefit out of it for a week, and then after that, the natural populations will catch up, and everything's going to be back to A-OK. There's lots of research about that. Feel free to go dig through that, and we can fight about it on air. I promise you, I'm 100% okay with that. So, again, case in point is that crystal green alone may not be a solution. This may be something that if you're going to use crystal green, in order to facilitate the availability of it, the application of additional products or additional acids may be necessary in order to make quick solubilization a thing. So, for instance, an application of sulfuric acid or a product like hydrogen glycine may be necessary in order to make this available. So I want, and me personally, as I continue to learn about this shit, I want to share with you to say that I was fucking wrong, and I'm okay with that. And I will not change my mind that Pestie is okay. So that's all I have to say about that. Gentlemen, we are way over fucking time. Let's check out this week's returns. I can't believe those guys. I'm going to talk right over this buffer right here. It's unbelievable.
Sounds like it's ready for a strongly worded email, Matt.
It's not going to be an email. It's going to be an invitation to come on a Thirsty Thursday episode and justify why we should take them serious. Ryan, how do I say this city?
What is the? Let me look.
Leicester City. Leicester City's messy. What is it? Messiah? Is that short for Messiah?
Messy. Holy shit.
Messy of mowing.
Messy.
What is messy?
You want me to read this one?
Please. Get me off the fucking screen, J Pink.
All right. Leicester City's messy of mowing aims to inspire future grounds workers. All right. So I'll read this here. So his elaborate pitch designs led him to being dubbed the Messy of Mowing. But for Leicester City's John Lewidge, his turf trimming masterpieces, including the club crest and the center circle, were not a display of ego. Until the FA decided that they were hindering the referee's assistant's spotting of offsides, the club's head of sports turf and grounds and his staff produced an array of artistic agricultural architecture that had many fans talking about the designs. Luigi even said that when he revealed his job to strangers on holiday, they instantly remembered the elaborate pitch patterns during Leicester's title run, or title-winning season. A lot of the time, it follows me around, Luigi tells The Athletic. Wherever I go, people talk about me and our designs. As soon as you say what you do, they ask, are you the patterns guy? You do the great patterns. The mysterious men behind the mower was finally figuring out how to...
guy?
Yeah,
I'll
show you some of the patterns.
Go ahead.
It's pretty wild.
I just
pretty wild.
How did they reduce this guy to the patterns guy?
Because some of the
way
stuff
more
he was
than
doing,
the patterns guy.
He's way
special.
more than that. Wait, see, you'll hear this. What this guy's doing is amazing, but the patterns are ridiculous. I'll go find some here. Actually, J Pink, while I'm doing this, just look up his name and Twitter, and you can cycle back through his media, and some of his patterns will be in there. It's amazing stuff. All right, so
Are you the patterns guy? Are you the lawn boy?
Yeah.
Can you come into my house while I write you this check while I'm completely naked? Anyway, that was the whole point of it, to get people talking, explains the 36-year-old. It got people engaged, and therefore we can hopefully try and capture the imagination of some of that next generation, the people who get interested enough so they have a little bit more respect for what we do or a little bit more understanding. The patterns and the artistic license are gone, but the legacy of those patterns still carries on. It wasn't a vanity project. It wasn't the John Lewis patterns. It was to get people talking, and it worked. The reason Lewis, who became the youngest head groundsman in the country at Coventry City at age 23, wanted football fans to take notices was because of their desire to inspire young supporters to look at the groundskeeping staff as a viable career path within the game. Like millions of youngsters, Lewis grew up dreaming of becoming a professional player. While standing on the West Terrace at Highfield Road cheering on his boyhood club, Coventry, Lewis wanted to be out there on the pitch. By 13, I looked like Bruce Bottrager, I don't know, out of Matilda. I was quite a portly kid. I hear you, John. I love you, man. Quite quickly, I realized that I was never going to make it as a footballer. Same. Lewis has no connection with gardening as a boy, but his dad suggested he write to the grounds manager at Coventry, volunteer to help out. I said I had no idea what a groundsman is, but if he gets me on the pitch, I'll do it. We wrote a letter, and then a week later, he came back and offered me a few days in the summer holidays to help out. Instead of killing bugs, Lewis caught one, groundskeeping. It's one of those industries that really gets under your skin. All right, from the age of 13, he was volunteering and walking. So let's skip down here just a little bit. So essentially what they're doing here, gentlemen, is this week is Grounds Week. It's finishing up there over in the UK. And what Leicester City has done, what John specifically has spearheaded, is basically an academy. So if you're familiar with European soccer, and particularly the Premier League over there, is that they have a lot of these like academy teams and club teams that sort of the guys that are good rise up through the ranks and become sort of the cream of the crop, right, at the top club. And so John sought to basically make a similar type of system within their club and hopefully spread it to other clubs throughout the country there, where they are taking in, and they've invested an absolute shit ton of money to take in essentially apprentices off the street, right, and people that are interested in doing this as a career and making them into groundskeepers, right, giving them all the tools, giving them all the access, the connections. He brought his group actually over in January to the Sports Field Managers Association conference and show down in Savannah, Georgia. Again, a small group, I want to say about 12 people or so, if I'm remembering correctly, that they've got going right now. And I think what they're trying to do, again, is to take this off into other places. And so to John in Grounds Week, thank you for everything that you do. That's nothing. I'll find one that's really good here in a second. But the again, the passion that people have for this industry, if you're not in it, I hope you'll understand it and connect with somebody that does, right? Somebody like us that, yeah, you know, we'll talk to you about our heartaches and our trials and tribulations and everything like that. And that's any career, right? I mean, any career. But I will tell you, gentlemen, the number one thing that is threatening our industry, it's not pesticide regulations, it's not water restrictions, it's none of that stuff. The fact of the matter is that we do not have enough qualified people in this industry to take over for even us, Matt Martin, us in our mid-30s, to be the next generation. We simply don't. People are leaving this industry at an alarming rate, right? And I'm not just talking lawn care. I'm also talking about golf. I'm talking about sports turf, right? all of it, all the sectors that go into our great industry. And again, what's stopping it is just a very huge lack of awareness by folks, when they're in school, right, when they're in high school and thinking about careers and things like that, or for people that are looking for second careers, people that were pissed off and tired of their office job during COVID and decided to go do something different, right? And I've met a number of those people that have discovered this career, right, and are just blown away by it, absolutely blown away, just in the year and a half that they've been doing it. And so I guess that's our big thing, is that a lot of times what we hear from an awareness standpoint, I never heard about that, never knew that could be a thing, didn't know that if I put my nose to the grindstone out of high school and then out of college, right, that I could be making upper five, low six figures inside of 10 to 15 years after getting out of school, maybe even quicker if you're really good at what you do. It's an impressive industry. It's got a lot of potential right now, and it's going to have even more, right, because the amount of people that are getting out of it and the amount of work are going in opposite directions right now. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's true. And so I don't know. My only question to you guys and Matt, to round it out and to try and be a little bit helpful, right, and hopeful, besides the huge opportunity that is perimeter pest control right now, but like if you were listening, you should have seen how Matt snapped his head at me and gave me the look. But anyway, what would you? How look at that? So that's one of them.
That is beautiful.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that is distracting me right now. Terrible.
Yeah.
Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is just
grass pattern radio.
distracting.
We'll link up a
that is
picture
highly
in the show notes.
distracting.
You can click on it on your Spotify or Apple. But anyway, gentlemen, listen, it's something I am deeply passionate about. I am not going to be here forever. Neither are you two. Well, maybe Ray. He'll probably outlive us all.
No.
I mean, he has a porterhouse every week. But
no, I got reminded because one of my this person that I was talking to today said, "Ray, you're gonna be 50 this year. How long can you keep on doing this?" I mean, I had people legitimately concerned about me because, they know that 50 is halfway to 100. Okay? 50 is halfway to 100. In other words, I got called old. I got called old, okay?
It just it lends credence though, Ray. How do we have the next green duck? What's it going to take? Matt Martin.
No,
how do we have the next grass factor? What's it going to take? Look at that shit right there.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
it won't take much for the next grass factor. I promise you that. Ray is unreplaceable. That is for sure.
I'm just saying, how do we? I don't expect you guys to have all the answers, but I don't know. What can we do if people are listening out there and can be inspired by something we say? I ask you both, as qualified, successful people that have been paid in the nude, some of us. What do we need to do?
My take on this is that there does need to be. I'll tell you the simplest thing that can be done is if there are young, and when I say young, I'm talking 16, 17, 18 to 20-year-olds that are out there that that are looking for something to consider a career path. Share what we do. Sure, let them listen to a couple podcasts and understand that this is the type of industry with a lot of tremendous upside potential. This industry rewards self-employment, probably unlike any other industry that's out there right now. And it is there's a certain amount of everyday passion that gets applied that I think does not exist in corporate environments, right? When you work in corporate environments, and I'm not shitting on engineers, I'm not shitting on corporate attorneys. Those people do things that I'm not capable of doing, and kudos to them for wanting to do it. And I know everybody has it in your head that if you get a corporate engineering job, you're going to make $100,000 a year. You will eventually, but probably not too far along from that if you get out there and you cut your chops in turfgrass management and you either become self-employed or you get on at a good club, or you take your experience and you apply your own flair like Ledwidge does here, then you're going to be able to make $100,000 at about the same rate in engineer would. And the difference is that especially if you do it without corporate structure, there's no upside to what your earning potential can be. And it's hard work, but it's very rewarding work. You see the fruits of your labors on a daily, monthly basis, and you're working with nature. And for anybody, especially, and I want to make a point about this, and I think I can't recall his name right now, but the turfgrass zealot makes a very good.
Dave Wilbur.
Dave Wilbur does a good job of talking about mental health within the industry. And if you know people, especially young people, that struggle with mental health, I promise you, working outside, sweating every day, putting your hands in the earth, there's no better industry to get into. And I'm saying people that have addiction issues, people that deal with bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. This is an industry that rewards interesting people. The only thing you have to show is a little bit of passion, and it inspires passion from the strangest of people. And I mean that with absolute love, because there's a certain amount of camaraderie that goes along with it. And all of a sudden, you will find yourself incredibly close friends with those strangest of people. And then the big shock is when you realize you are one of those fucking strange people too. And then it feels really good.
Yep.
Ray,
because otherwise,
go ahead.
Because otherwise, getting into this industry, it is actually rewarding. You can be your own boss. You can call the shots. You're owned by no one. But the flip side to that is you got to put in the work. You got to do your homework. Because the other statement that I had today, in addition to being called old, is this person had no idea that turf and ornamental management was so scientific. Okay?
Yeah. You needed
I
to read
had
for
no
that.
idea.
Yes.
I had no idea. I said, you better believe it. This is scientific. Yes. And the people that don't take a scientific approach to this, one, either they work very hard and don't get the results, or two, they fuck things up and they do it epically.
And
okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think, there's a lot to unpack, and I would love to continue to talk about this, and we will. Right? It's not going to be solved in this episode, but man, is it an alarming thing right now to see the industry that we all love, and again, see so much promise and potential in terms of the market and the opportunities that are out there, while at the same time seeing fewer and fewer people get into it, fewer and fewer good people, right? People that can sustain us and move us forward.
Everybody has basically, they have fantasies right now of being Elon Musk's or Mark Zuckerberg's bitch. That's the end goal of the current generation.
Well, I'll tell you what, wouldn't the boys at some of those big commodity lawn care firms, Matt Martin, love to do TikTok lawns? They want you to be in and out in 3 minutes or less. Otherwise, you could find a new fucking job. All right. Now with that,
wait, one more thing for the people that want to become Elon Musk. This is a serious food for thought. If we were to colonize Mars, someone who has an expert green thumb is going to have to grow food on it and figure out how to grow food in soil structures that we do not have a lot of experience with. Again, there's a lot of research out there that NASA has already started in trying to figure out from a geological perspective how to grow food in those soils, however that has to be done. And you can go and recreate pretty close Martian soils and start running your own experiments right now to be ready for when that comes around. Because guess what? They're going to hire plant scientists to be on those types of missions to figure that shit out and preserve humankind. That is a very real possibility. Art, culture, all that fun stuff will be a continuation. But I promise when it comes time for sustenance, and this is why, especially at this point in my life, as I'm getting older and out of less of the daily grind and sweating my balls off, for the industry, it's more so thinking about how to leave a lasting impact. And part of that for me, that passion has now moved into food and learning about that, because that was not something I did in school, right? And so now as I've gotten older, I've shifted my focus. And here's another thing too, is that if you want an industry where you never stop learning, it does not begin and end at college. I promise you that. It is a lifelong endeavor. Every day you can learn something new. I always said to myself, I would get out of this space the day I stopped learning something new. It's the same reason I married a foreigner, is because I knew every day we would learn something new about each other, culturally, language-wise, whatever the case may be. It's the same way I apply to my professional life. I hate to be so transactional about, my personal life, my marriage, but for me, that's how I stay engaged, right? The same thing in my career choices. Whether now that even though I'm in manufacturing, I am so chemistry centric in what I do every day for the green industry. I am doing the nitty gritty chemistry for the green industry, and it is absolutely the most satisfying. I mean, I check out my Twitter. I forwent a salary for a year and a half and put my family through absolute fucking hell to chase this dream. And you know what? It's for the better. And I'm lucky to have a partner to afford me the ability to do this. But I did it because I fucking love this industry.
Oh, I thought you were going to say about Twitter. I thought you were going to say on the Twitter feed, you also love hating on people that think that regenerative agriculture is the second coming. Jesus.
I know. I love regenerative agriculture too, but it does not become the Bible of how to manage agriculture moving forward. But rigidity is something you taught me to be less of, DeMay, and I will apply that in my approach as I learn more about agriculture as well.
Gives me anxiety. I love you.
Thirsty Friday again. Friday again with guess who? Our favorite, Aaron Smuffhuggin Donnelly, Lush Lawns. Lushy is coming on Friday. That means we're going to have a lot of BS.
I'm partying with Lushy this week. I'm going to Providence.
Jesse Bousquet, one of our other sponsors.
I believe we're going to dinner. I think
is LTK Trucking gonna haul you up to fucking Boston? You need to call Telly.
It's an 11.5-hour drive.
Truck. And fucking airplane and right up to Boston.
I mean, listen, I can go on the airplane.
All the sponsors.
It's going to be costly. You know what? You get a man of my size strapped to a pallet LTL, it's going to get probably more expensive than airfare is right now. All right. I mean, that's just that's the economics of it. Yeah, gas is a little high, diesel's a little bit higher. So, you know what? I'll take my business class seat for this trip, and I'll swallow it for this one. But next time, Telly, I'll get a quote.
All right, everybody. Y'all have a fantastic evening. We're going to the show after the show to let our fine co-producers pick this week's title.